14 hours. The Strait of Hormuz. The absolute darkness of the Persian Gulf is torn apart by a column of incandescent fire that defies physics. From the vertical launch system VLS, cells of the destroyer USS Carney, a salvo of RIM 174 Standard Extended Range Active SM-6 missiles shatters inertia with terrifying technical violence. The roar of the solid-fueled boosters is not just sound. It is a seismic vibration that shakes the vessel's 9,000 tons of steel as the interceptors climb skyward, reaching Mach 4 inches seconds. The target: 3 Iranian Noor cruise missiles traveling in sea-skimming mode, concealed barely 3 meters above the wave crests. The telemetry in the Combat Information Center, CIC, reveals a chilling reality. The IRGC projectiles are less than 40 meters from a fully loaded SuezMax tanker. If the active radar seekers of the SM-6S, each a masterpiece of kinetic engineering worth $4.8 million, fail to achieve lock-on in the next 11 seconds, $250 million in crude oil will become a fireball and a planetary ecological disaster. But this is not a NATO simulation or a freedom of navigation exercise. It is the violent, surgical, and digitally superior collapse of an Iranian provocation valued at $3.2 billion. Tehran has just made the mistake of inviting the Fifth Fleet to a high-intensity duel. In the next 12 minutes, the regime will watch its entire area denial doctrine be systematically erased. The giant has awakened, and the lesson will be definitive. What the world is about to witness is not a simple exchange of fire in international waters. It is the absolute redefinition of maritime power in the 21st century. While mainstream media struggles to decode the flashes on the horizon, intelligence analysts in Pentagon basements already know the truth. The IRGC's $3.2 billion gamble has just collided with a wall of integrated steel and combat algorithms. For years, Tehran invested fortunes in subterranean missile cities and stealthy Shahed Soleimani-class corvettes, designed specifically to saturate the Aegis defenses of U.S. Navy destroyers. Their theory was simple: make the Strait of Hormuz too costly, too bloody, and too impossible to defend for the West. They were catastrophically wrong in their calculation. The moment the IRGC fleet departed its bases to harass the tanker convoy, they were not launching a provocation, they were delivering a target list. While Iranian captains shouted orders over unencrypted radios, a Kayans-Kenan satellite from the National Reconnaissance Office, orbiting at 500 kilometer altitude, had already transmitted their exact thermal signatures to the Tactical Action Officer, TAO, aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. The U.S. response was not a diplomatic cable or a radio warning. It was the activation of the kill web. While Iranian radars attempted to fix targets, the U.S. Navy was already using the enemy's own electromagnetic emissions to triangulate every missile battery hidden in the Zagros Mountains. Iran believed it was setting a saturation trap. In reality, it was handing naval intelligence the data needed for a mass strike. Information superiority just converted decades of investment into a high-tech graveyard. 15 hours. The atmosphere in the CIC of the USS Carney is one of glacial, almost artificial calm. Yet the tactical situation display presents a logistical nightmare. The dilemma is brutal. The Iranian missiles are so close to the SuezMax tanker that a standard kinetic intercept could be as catastrophic as a direct hit. Here, error is measured in milliseconds and consequences in decades of environmental disaster. The ROE, rules of engagement, are clear, but physics is relentless. If the SM-6 detonates its fragmentation warhead too close to the target, the cloud of tungsten fragments at Mach 4 could pierce the tanker's double hull, triggering a massive spill that would shut down global energy trade. This is the fog of war in its purest state. If we fire, we risk an ecological or nuclear disaster. If we don't, we allow a reckless actor to erase our sovereignty in the strait. Meanwhile, sensors detect the IRGC has deployed fast boats operating as human shields in the interceptor's flight path, attempting to force a moral vulnerability into the U.S. command. Iranian radars, desperate after seeing their guidance systems degraded, have shifted to manual targeting, firing blind bursts that complicate data filtering for the Aegis system. The air is saturated with jamming signals, and for a moment, superiority seems to hang by a thread. If we fail here, we lose the sea, the signals analyst whispers. But the USS Carney is not an isolated platform. It is a node in an intelligent network that knows no panic. The commander does not hesitate. Under distributed command doctrine, the firing decision is made locally, without waiting on Washington's bureaucracy. The giant will not retreat before tactical blackmail. It is time to play the ace up the sleeve. Let us pause tactically in the CIC. While the SM-6 interceptors slice through the air and the fate of a $250 million tanker hangs by a thread, the question for the analyst and for you is inevitable. Is it financially sustainable to fire $4, 8 million missiles to stop low-cost Iranian threats? Or is this the unavoidable price of keeping the world's vital energy artery under American control? The IRGC is betting on the economic and moral exhaustion of the Fifth Fleet, but the Pentagon responds with a decisiveness that ignores budgets and delivers only surgical results. We want to know your position on this high-priority situation report. If you believe the U.S. Navy is demonstrating a necessary superiority to prevent global chaos and energy collapse, write total dominance in the comments. If you consider this deployment a cost trap the U.S. should avoid, comment recalibration. Your engagement ensures this technical intelligence analysis keeps breaking through mainstream media censorship. Stand by in the next segment. We will reveal the technological ace of spades that left Iran blind, deaf, and screaming into the void. What Tehran failed to understand is that they were not fighting a ship, they were fighting an interconnected global algorithm. At the center of this firestorm is the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, a command and control node orbiting at 30,000 feet. This eye in the sky carries the APY-9 Active Electronically Scanned Array (AESA) radar, capable of detecting drone-sized threats hundreds of miles away, even beyond the Earth's curvature. Through the Link 1.6 protocol, the Hawkeye does not merely observe, it acts as the brain of a single unified entity. Using Cooperative Engagement Capability (CEC), the E-2D transmitted telemetry data directly to the destroyer's VLS cells. The USS Carney fired its interceptors practically blind, without activating its own organic radars to avoid revealing its exact position. It was a remote fire, guided by the Hawkeye's eyes, but the true protagonist of the kinetic destruction is the RIM. 174 Standard Extended Range Active, SM-6. This $4.8 million precision weapon is a masterpiece of engineering. Exceeding 2,600 miles per hour, the SM-6 does not follow a pre-programmed trajectory. It carries an active radar seeker derived from the AMRAAM air-to-air missile, granting it terrifying autonomy. It can independently hunt targets, executing high-intensity evasive maneuvers once it reaches the terminal phase. While the SM-6S cleared the sky, the U.S. Navy deployed its offensive counterstrike, the AGM-158C LRASM, long-range anti-ship missile, launched from F-35C fighters. The LRASM is the world's first truly intelligent projectile. In a jamming-saturated environment where GPS is useless, this missile uses onboard AI and an imaging infrared seeker to compare what it sees against a 3D target library stored in its memory. The LRASM does not strike anywhere on the ship. It surgically selects the most vulnerable point, such as the munitions magazine, and hits with centimeter precision while flying just 3 meters above the water to evade enemy radar. It is not merely a missile, it is an autonomous killer that decides how and when to execute its sentence. Against this network of sensors and effectors, the IRGC's $3.2 billion corvettes are little more than practice targets in a digital shooting gallery. Despite the kinetic destruction in the sky, the killing blow arrived not with explosives, but with electrons. At 35,000 feet, an EA-18G Growler, the U.S. Navy's premier electronic wolf, patrolled the airspace boundary in sepulchral silence. As IRGC corvettes desperately attempted to lock their fire control radars onto the lead destroyer, the Growler's pilot activated the ALQ-218 tactical receiver and the next-generation jamming system. In an instant, the reality on Iranian radar screens transformed into a psychedelic nightmare. This was not simple white noise jamming, it was massive digital ghosting. Iranian operators, sweating in the Gulf heat, watched in horror as 50 American ships appeared on their screens where only one existed. Missiles seem to approach simultaneously from north, south, and east, moving at physically impossible speeds. This is the power of the next-generation jammer, NGJ. The system identifies the enemy hardware's exact frequency and remotely bricks it. The attack software injected malicious code into Iranian data links, triggering a total information blackout. The $3.2 billion corvettes, the pride of Tehran's modernization program, were suddenly blind, deaf, and screaming into an electromagnetic void. Without their digital backbone, the coastal missile cities became useless. They attempted to shift to manual targeting, but in an era where missiles travel at 1,000 meters per second, aiming with degraded optical sensors is an exercise in suicidal futility. Iranian Command and Control, C2, was effectively decapitated. No ground invasion, no carpet bombing was needed. The US Navy simply edited Iran's access to the battlefield. The IRGC fleet, humiliated and paralyzed, was forced to watch its most expensive assets become inert steel buoys before being claimed by the ocean floor. 4 hours. The sun begins to crest the horizon, transforming the Arabian Sea into a sheet of hammered gold. The tanker convoy, led by the imposing USS Abraham Lincoln, continues its transit with insulting nonchalance. Behind them, columns of black smoke rising from the remnants of Iranian coastal batteries are the only reminder that the kill web was activated. Tehran's defeat is absolute, not only physical, but psychological. To ensure no residual threats remained, the USS Carney launched a RUM-139D VLA, a rocket delivering a Mark 54 torpedo. Upon hearing the torpedo's water entry and the first ping of the active sonar, an IRGC Ghadir-class submarine executed an emergency surface maneuver and raised a white flag. They understood that against this sensor network, stealth is a myth and resistance is literally a death sentence. The economic toll is catastrophic for the regime. In 12 minutes, they lost 20% of their modern naval tonnage and 3 strategic emplacements. The US Navy, for its part, expended less than 1% of available munition capacity. This is the efficiency of dominance. While leaders in Tehran wake to news of their obsolescence, the watch officer in the CIC simply sips lukewarm coffee and begins routine paperwork. For the giant, this was not a war, it was a Tuesday morning following standard operating procedure. The lesson is clear for any revisionist power. Do not challenge those who write the rules of the world order with algorithms and steel. If you want to understand the technical reality of modern warfare and dissect the technology that keeps the oceans open, subscribe now and enable notifications. Here we bring you the tactics, the engineering, and the truth that mainstream media is afraid to report.